Ryan, so this is British skating legends, probably we were just saying about number 23, something like that.
Oh, I'm well down the list then.
Yes, you're well down the list, yes. And it's been, funny enough, a lot of people have been asking, well, when are you going to do your dad? So, which is quite an interesting one because I'll held it up and held it off. But did you know 60 years this year, I think, since your first race? 64. So, April 64. So anyway, but for the record, because I tend to ask this of everybody, and I know the answers to some of these obviously, is when and where were you born?
Dudley Road Hospital, Birmingham.
Okay, February 49.
Yeah, 21st February 49.
Right. Okay. So when did you first strap on a pair of roller skates?
I must have been at junior school, Adderley Road Junior School, and both me and Alan, my brother Alan, who's 18 months younger than me, we both had a pair of, I don't think the brand was Jacko, but they were just strap-on skates, and we had them one Christmas, and we were just skating around the streets basically, and that was I remember skating to school on them because going to school was downhill down Arden Road, but I can't remember what I would do with them when I got to school. You know, we didn't have lockers and stuff like that, but I do remember skating down to school on them. Very vague memory, you know. So I'm going back a long, long time. But that was the first. I can't even. I mean, you know.
How old would you have been about then?
I'd be sort of, I guess, 8, 9,
okay.
maybe. You know, but they didn't last very long. I weren't into skating. It was just that we had them as a Christmas present, and you know, we just skated in the streets, and maybe once or twice, and they'd get thrown in the cupboard. You know, and it was nothing. Weren't no passion to skate at all. So, but that was the very first memory I've got.
There's been a story I grew up with, which was that you found a pair of skates on a bonfire. What's that story?
No, we didn't find them on a bonfire. It was where we lived. We lived in some masonettes, which was 2-story flats basically, in a grove, and there was probably 12, 15 blocks of these flats with 4 families in each block, and we used to play out in this grove area, and we used to have big bonfires every year, and we used to collect bonfire wood from everywhere, anywhere, you know, nick people's fences and anything, just to have these bonfires. And there was a bloke in the grove, an old fella, ex-army guy, and we was collecting stuff for the bonfire, and he says, "Can you burn some of this rubbish for me?" And he gave us a box of rubbish, and I says, "Yeah, we'll put it on the fire for you." And in this box was a pair of skates, but they were dance skates, you know. I mean, the they was about this high, you know, with wooden wheels on. And I thought, oh, I'll have them. And that was miles too big for me, but so I put them on, and I was skating on the streets in them. And some bloke just on his way home from work says to me, "Oh, you don't want to skate on the streets on them, son? You'll ruin them. Why don't you go to the rink?" And I went, "What rink?" He said, "At Warford Road." He said, "It's a roller rink, proper rink for using them sort of skates." So number 8 bus from where we lived was just one bus ride to the rink, which I knew nothing about, and that was it. I just went to that roller rink, and from there on in, just used to go regularly, change my skates, upgrading my skates when I could, and from that just going to just general skating sessions. And there was a guy there, a guy called Terry Caldicott, who I knew, but I didn't know that he played roller hockey. And he was at the rink, and I got chatting to him, and he said, "Well, why don't you ever go to roller hockey?" And I thought, what's roller hockey? He said, "Stop after the session, and you'll see us play." So that's what I did, and that was my first introduction into competitive skating. I did a season for them, and played hockey for Birmingham, only as a kid. And the competitions used to be at Butlins holiday camps, because every Butlins holiday camp used to have a roller rink. and they used to play roller hockey competitions at all these holiday camps. And so I did that for a season, and then I met another guy, because at the rink they used to have gents onlys and ladies onlys, where there'd be a speed session. So they'd play some fast music and everybody would race around. And there was a lad there called Barry Fitzpatrick, and he says, "Have you ever thought about speed skating?" I says, "Well, no." He says, "We train on a Thursday night, from 5 till 7 before the evening session." And that was that. Went to the speed skating session, and that was it. That's
how old would you have been then?
Probably 14 then, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to test your knowledge of them early days, and I'll see if you. I know. So, like I said, I've done some research, but do you remember your first race?
My first race, I believe, I was only a junior, because if you was under 16, you were junior. But back in them days, you couldn't race till you were 12 anyway. You couldn't race till you was 12 years of age. So 12 to 16 was junior age category. And I was in my last year. So, and don't forget, the season used to be October till March. That was the racing season. We didn't race through the summer. So it would have been in the winter of 64, because I was 15. No, it would have been 63, 64, because I'd have been 16 in the February of 66, wouldn't I? Yeah.
65.
65.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would have been, like it says, that
64.
Winter of 64.
Well, I've got.
And I think, me interrupting, I think it was probably at the Palace. And I remember going there, and I'd never heard of having my wheels turned. And the Palace, compared to the Embassy, was like a snooker table. It was dead smooth. It was as smooth as silk. And I remember getting on the rink and skating round, and my wheels were just going drrr, drrr. They were so out of true. It was unbelievable. And I didn't know anything about having wheels turned and all that sort of stuff. And new wheels was something I never envisaged. So it must have been that winter. I don't know what month, but it must have been.
The first record I can find is April '64, actually.
Right.
So you'd have been. So that's early. That's 15. So you'd have just been 15 in the February.
Right.
So, and it was at the Palace. It was the Albert Lamb Memorial Trophy.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. And
where did I come?
no,
Anyway.
well, yeah, you obviously didn't come in the top three. Was it a big thing to turn senior back then? I mean, like, because you said 12 to 16 years of age of juniors. And
Well, I must have been then, because you used to change on your birthday. It wasn't like the 1st of January as it is now, each year, or the year of your birth now. So if I was 15 in the April, which must have been an extended season for some reason.
The season tended to run from, so although it was October till the end of September, the races used to be sort of November. So although the season started in October, sort of November through to May was the season.
Right.
So that was a season. So November to May, and then so you'd be 15. So when you come to like the next season, the winter '64, you'd still be 15 until February.
It's my birthday.
Which, because I'll tell you, you won't know. I don't think you'll know this, but your first medal. Your first medal was when you come second in the junior championships at the Embassy, and that was November '64.
Right. So I can tell you that year. No, it probably wouldn't have been that year. It would probably been the year after. Let me go back to that race at the Embassy, that junior championship.
Yeah.
I remember it quite well, because there was a really good lad, really good kid who skated for North London, a kid called Dave Hart, and I think he'd won just about everything at that time. And I didn't know him from Adam, and it was just we raced on the Embassy, but not a lot of Londoners liked racing on the Embassy because it was a lot rougher. Even though it was a wooden surface, it was a lot rougher than the Palace, and it was a lot bigger. The Palace was about 100 metres, I think, and the Embassy was probably 120, but longer straights, tighter bends probably, and they didn't compete as well on the Embassy as they did on the Palace. So, like I said, I was second to Dave Hart.
Yeah.
I was second to Dave Hart in that junior championship. A lot of people said that I'd won it, but I couldn't have told you whether I won it or not.
Was that close?
They reckon it was, yeah. A lot of people said that you beat him, but he was the name, and they give it to him, and all that sort of stuff, you know. But I couldn't tell you whether I won it or not.
Well, your first victory then came a day before your 16th birthday.
As a junior?
As a junior. You won the Birmingham Junior Trophy at the Embassy, and second was a kid called Andrew Cass, and third was another guy called Pilcher from Herne Bay.
Was Cass from London?
Yes, he was, yeah. Yeah, but you don't remember that race. But that would. So what was ironic about that was that you're 15 and 364 days.
Yeah.
You win your first ever race, and then you turn senior the following day.
Yeah. No, I don't remember that race.
Okay.
To be perfectly honest with you, no, I don't.
Well, your first senior medal then comes in the relay championships at Alexandra Palace, and that was March '66. So you didn't get a medal between as a senior. So you turned senior on February '64, and February '65, and then it's almost 12 months before you get a medal. But it's in the relay, so you're only 17, and you're in a team with Danny Kelly,
Yeah.
Ray Roberts, and Barry Fitzpatrick at the Palace, and it was the relay championships.
Was it?
Yeah, and Broadway won, but third you beat the Birmingham team, and in the Birmingham team was Leo Eason, Ricky May, and then a guy called John Thompson and Freddie Whip.
Yeah, I remember all of them.
But do you remember the race at all at Palace? Do you remember getting that medal? Because you couldn't race with Kelly very often at 64. I think he gave up that year pretty much.
No, and it all kicked off at the Palace that night. All kicked off. There was a big punch up, and Danny got banned. And I can't think of else. I know Danny got banned. It all kicked off after the race. Can't remember why, but as a kid, you know what I mean. The older members of the club got involved, but as a kid I thought, well, I didn't even know what was going on. All of a sudden, just the place just erupted and there was punches thrown here, there and everywhere. And
was that the Midland Club or the Birmingham Club? Was it clubs or people or?
I just know Danny was involved in a big way because Danny'd go flying in anyway.
Yeah.
Any hassle would go flying in. And I can't think. I don't know if it was the Palace. I don't know if it was with the Palace. I'm not sure.
It would have been at the Palace.
It was at the Palace. Yeah, and I can remember it all kicking off. But what it was over, I have not got a clue. Not got a clue.
Well, funny enough, I was my next question on my list of questions was there inter-club rivalry back then? Because there was obviously a lot more skaters than there is today. So I imagine there's a lot more scope for, I don't know, for people to not like other people, or for.
I guess there probably was. I mean, I don't think the Palace and the North London got on particularly well. Obviously, the Midland and the Birmingham didn't get on very well.
They didn't.
No, it didn't get on at all well. But I can't remember. That's really the only real punch up at an event I can remember.
Okay.
Between the clubs.
Clubs.
During the indoor season anyway.
Well, your first individual senior medal. So we move on a bit more now. So again, this is still in '66, and it was the Burdick Cup on the Palace, 14th of May 1966, and you're third. Actually, you crossed the line fourth in the Burdick Cup, this handicap. And Brian Cornelius was third, but then gets disqualified and
Right.
and elevates you to third. And that was your first time you got an individual medal. Do you remember that event at all?
No, not particularly. No.
Well, the other thing around that time, so very much from the racing a bit, the team had changed the name from Midland to Midland Olympic,
Yeah.
and I know that was to do with the Mecca Olympic rink
Yeah.
coming on stream. But how was the new rink perceived? Because you'd obviously been for a couple of years based at the embassy, and then so how did that come about, and what was it like to have a new home, if you like? And
Well, again, I was only a kid really, and wasn't involved in the closing down of the embassy. I remember the embassy closing, obviously, and then people like Ray Roberts and Pat, his wife, who was the secretary, would have negotiated with the Mecca to move to the Mecca rink. But it was quite seamless, really, the transition. It was for me anyway. I mean, we lost a lot of the people who'd grown up at the embassy. A lot of the senior skaters didn't adapt to the Mecca. I can think of quite a number of them. A lot of the senior skaters at that particular time, people you're talking about, Johnny Thompson, Freddie Whip, in the Birmingham club. A lot of the Birmingham club skaters didn't come across to the Mecca. And I don't think the Birmingham club really understood, or maybe didn't want to understand it. The embassy, which had been going for years and years and years, which was their
1910 it opened.
Yeah, well, which was their home track, and they all grew up on there. A lot of them lived local. To move across town to another venue, and the other thing that didn't help was the training times changed. Whereas at the embassy, we used to train between the sessions, so from like 5 o'clock till 7 o'clock till the evening session started. That was our training times. The training times at the Mecca was after the session finished at 10:30 at night. So a lot of people didn't make that transition, and the only other time that we had was Sunday mornings. But we used to have Sunday mornings at the embassy as well. But I think we only got an hour, of a Sunday morning, which, like I said, a lot of people with the embassy were located in that area of Birmingham. The Mecca rink was right across town, and not many people.
What was the floor of the Mecca like? Because wasn't it?
It was very much like the American rinks. It was maple floor, a mitered maple floor, proper constructed roller rink.
Okay.
We used to call it varnish.
Yeah.
The Americans call it roll on. It was a very grippy varnish that went over the where at the embassy, if the floor was every training session we used to powder the floor with plaster of Paris, to make it grippy, and but the Mecca was a totally different environment. It was you couldn't get into the rink to a public session if you got long hair, for instance. You had to be properly dressed just for a public session. They used to have a barber in the foyer. They'd cut your hair. If you went with long hair and they'd say, sorry, your hair's too long, it's touching your collar, they'd cut your hair for free so you could go in the rink. So it changed completely. I mean, at the Mecca, they'd got proper lighting, a lovely floor, they'd got a bar area, nice furnished bar area. They've got a burger bar, that flip burgers on a hot plate, all very, totally different.
Do you think you benefited from that transition because you was young and you'd gone from like the old dusty embassy to a nice sparkly sort of, do you think you was at the right sort of age to benefit?
Oh, I was for definite, and I adapted to the floor and the different wheels that we used on the embassy. We used to use sycamore wheels. When we went to the Mecca, sycamore wheels were useless, absolutely useless. And all the rink hire skates at the embassy had got wooden wheels. All the rink hire skates at the Mecca were urethane wheels. So it was quiet. There was no noise. You could hear the music you know, and they'd got proper DJs, you know, and they used to have bands on there and all sorts, you know, so it was a totally different environment, totally different.
Well, just going back to the racing briefly. So in November '66, so still in '66, now it's suppose it's the next season, it's 66, 67, you win your first gold medal in the Claw Cup at the Palace. Second is Mick Murphy, and third Mick Cook.
Yeah. And who was
Mick Cook, a guy called Mick Cook. He was South London, not Ted Cook, but it was Mick Cook. Yeah, Mick Cook from South London. So just saying about the Claw Cup at the Alexandra Palace. That's your first senior gold medal. Mick Murphy second, and from South City, instead of Mick Cook from South London, I think. But you don't remember winning that race?
No.
Okay.
I don't remember that one. There again, I suppose it should be up there in my memory banks, but
well,
it.
I mean, it is. Don't forget, one of the reasons we're doing this is it's 60 years this year since your first race. Yeah. So I think it can be cut some slack. But there's another race, and a couple of weeks later, you do get gold at the Embassy this time. It's called the Davis Cup, and Mickey McGough second. But he had exactly the same time as you. Again, another handicap, but you and him must have crossed the line quite close because you'd be given the same time, although the victory was given to you. And a guy called Keith Ball was third. Around that time, I mean, we're talking 66. So this is like November 66. So Mick had won the 5 mile in the year. And you had gone later to become rivals. Had the rivalry begun at that point, or was it not?
No. Well, he was a couple of years older than me.
Yeah.
So he would have. In actual fact, I remember him winning that 5, and I think it was because Danny got disqualified.
Yes, it was. Yeah, that's right.
Danny won it.
Yeah.
And they disqualified him for skating too close behind. No, I mean, you know.
I think that was also Danny's last race because I think after they disqualified him, I think he said, "I'm done."
Well, I think he'd won it more than once.
And that's right. I think that was the last
disqualified more than once.
He told me that once. That
Yeah.
It was. Yeah.
But no, I mean, I didn't know Mickey McGough.
Mm.
In essence, I didn't know him. But the thing was, again, he'd won the 5 the year before, and like I said, they didn't transfer onto the Embassy very well, because if I was only first year senior, I couldn't have been all that really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he, like I said, he was 2 or 3 years older than me, I think. So he'd been around the senior scene for a little bit longer. But the Londoners didn't transfer onto the Embassy very well at all. So, you know, it was a bit of a, if I won, it was a bit of a home track
advantage
really. But the other thing as well is that, you know, there was almost an expectation, you know, for skaters in the Midland to win.
The Embassy.
Yeah, because you'd got skaters like Les Woodley, like Danny Kelly, like Ricky May, like Ray Roberts. Well, the 3 of those, Danny, Les, and Ricky, were all current internationals. They'd all been to World Championships, you know, and they used to come back, and I'd be in the changing rooms, and they'd be talking about, you know, going to different World Championships in Belgium and in Barcelona and places like that, and they between them, I think between Les and Leon Goodchild, at one stage they held every world record from a quarter of a mile to 100 mile. You know, so when you're growing up with people like that around you, it was the influences and it was just. It's difficult to say, but like there was an expectation to just keep that theme going all the way through from everybody who strapped a pair of skates on in that club, and then you've got Ray Roberts, who was a really innovative coach. We didn't call them coaches in them days; they were trainers. He was your trainer. He wasn't your coach. He was your trainer. But he moved the club on from being like Sunday mornings they'd go training and bash out 20 mile, right? But Ray introduced interval training, so you weren't just bashing out 20 mile at an even pace. You were now doing interval training, which was all speed based, cross training, cycling, all of these things Ray Roberts introduced. And as a youngster, I took all that on board. And I'd have people like Leon Goodchild in that summer of that year before I turned senior. We used to train at a place called the Kings Norton Factory Centre, which was a road circuit. Leon held every world record from 20 mile to 100 mile, and he was just a steady distance man, strong distance man. And he used to pick me up and take me to Kings Norton, and I used to sit behind him for lap after. It was like a big 500 metre circuit. I used to sit behind him for lap after lap after lap, and I think it was that gave me a good strength endurance background. Whilst I was basically a sprinter, it gave, and I'd always believe good sprinters come from good endurance, because in them days your shortest distance was a 500 metre time trial. So it all came from, having all these good people around you, all contributing and just listening to the stories and everything else. There was an expectation that you would, to win.
Well, 18th of March 1967 is a defining date, really, in your skating career, because you win the half-mile championship at the Mecca on that day. And you're only just 18. Did you feel confident going into that race?
I didn't feel anything. I knew I was fast around there. I knew I was quicker than most people around there, whether that be in training, or racing. But it weren't. I just don't think it was a confidence thing. I think it was just a youthful thing where you feel bulletproof. I can do it. It was a shrug of your shoulders type attitude. I can,
You do or you don't.
I can beat these. It wasn't an outward confidence. It was again just something that you was expected to do.
Do you think the home track advantage played a part?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So Mick McGoffey, he reminds me a few times that he wasn't in that race. I don't know why. I don't know why he wasn't in that race. I'm not sure. But I know it was your first ever senior scratch victory as well. You never won a scratch race up to that point. So home track advantage. Mick, who was as you said, well established at that time, wasn't in the race. It's your first senior scratch victory. Do you think that's why people called it a fluke? Because I've heard over the years that your first one, people said, well, it was a fluke. I don't know who said that. Who said that? Was it anybody?
No, but Johnny Toy, who years and years later did tell me, because they used to be in the North London dressing room. They used to get changed in the North London dressing room down at the Palace, and apparently that was all the topic of conversation. But I never heard that. It never got to my ears, and had it got to my ears, I'd have just shrugged my shoulders just the same as. But I do remember Bill Sharman, who was at the top of his game back in them days. He used to work for BT, and he used to be contracting, and he was working in Birmingham, and he used to come to the training sessions at the Mecca, and we'd be training, and he'd say to me, I can't live with you through the bends. I can't go into the bends as fast as you can. No matter how hard I try, I can't go in as fast as you. And he used to say, let me follow you, because Bill was always wanting to learn and to get better, and maybe that's what it was. Maybe and Bill was probably what 12 and a half, 13 stone, a big, you know. And I was like, I always remember at that period in time, I was 9 stone 9. I was 9 stone 9. You know, just skin and bone basically, and maybe it was that. Maybe it was just the fact that I could get through these bends better than most of the other skaters.
Well, you're obviously getting noticed. So you win your first championship, which is actually in fact your first scratch race, and then in July '67 you go on a GB beat trip to Follonica.
Yeah.
So how was your first outing in a GB shirt?
Well, a GB shirt was the GB outfit was black shorts and a white t-shirt with a badge stuck in the middle with a what's it? We used to call it the fried egg. You know, the international badge stuck in the middle. I remember I don't remember. It was just road. It was just a road circuit, and I do remember being in one of the races. I mean, I was useless. I put my hands up and say I was absolutely useless out there, but grateful of the opportunity to go. Along with, it was called a B International, but there was good skaters like Mickey Driver, Ron Hawkes, Johnny Foley, Ted Cook, you know.
Jimmy Dunsford, yeah, and yeah, but it was supposed to have been a B International without your Danny Kellys or your Les Woodleys or your Ricky Mays, and or your Bill Shaw was there, I think. Bill Shaw was there, and Mick
McGough, Johnny Foley. But it was also an introduction to people like myself, Mickey Driver, Dunsford, Ted Cook, to see how we'd perform it, you know, at an international. And I remember it was baking hot there, absolutely baking hot. I was racing on the road, and I remember there was the Traub brothers.
Traub, yeah.
Gunter Traub. I can't think what the other one was named, but Gunter Traub and but
Jürgen,
yeah, and they were both world champions on roller and ice. Well, I mean, you know, they were really big, hefty geezers, and the one hit me going into a bend. I got a bit cocky and tried to go around, and he just went bosh, right, and that I just kept going. I was going towards the seafront, so I was just out of it. But yeah, that was my first introduction into it. But I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Got really badly sunburns. Didn't have any suntan lotion. Just got burns, and I remember coming back and peeling my skin off, the dead skin after being sunburns. But yeah, I was.
Did you learn anything from that trip? Do you think? Did you get a taste for it, or was it just a bit of a jolly boys outing? Do you think, or what?
It opened my eyes to, you know, people like the Italians. You know, I mean, I think Ruggieri skated for them at that time. Who I can't remember. And there was quite a few of the top Italians there. Names that I can't remember now, but like to see the Italians in all their kit. You know, I mean, our kit was black shorts and a white t-shirt. You know, they had got all the gear. You know, and old alls bags. You know, with Italy on it, and you know, I mean, there was us like, you know, they weren't even Adidas then. They weren't even Adidas bags. It was just like the old bloody ex-army rucksack that you had all your skates and stuff in. But yeah, I can't say it gave me a taste for it. It gave me. I didn't feel enthused to come back and, you know, want to train hard and be at that level. Want to beat these guys. I just thought, phew, you know, this is a different level. Yeah.
Well, so again, going still in the 60s, or still in the 60s, but like so 68 now. So you know you're starting to establish yourself, and then you obviously get into the team trials or squads, you know, and up for grabs is a place on the team for Vicenza in '68 at the World Championships.
Yeah.
Did you think you was ready to go?
did I think I was ready to go? I had no perception of what a World Championships was all about. You know what I mean? I'd never seen one. I'd raced this international in '67, which was like a B international, but that didn't seem all singing, all dancing. You know, World Championships. The only thing I knew about them was the conversations I used to hear with, you know, like I says in the club room. You know, Danny and Les and Ricky and all the other people that, you know, was at World Championships. But I do remember the trials. The trials were at a furniture warehouse called Liebes's. And
was there only one trial, or was it a series of trials?
I think it was a series. I think it was a couple of weekends.
Okay.
You know.
And was this known to be that it was going to be selection? It was selection weekend.
It was selection.
Right. Okay.
But it wasn't selected by a manager. It was selected by a committee.
Were they there? Were they present?
Yeah. They were all there. They all had to have their votes and, you know, who should go and who shouldn't go. And I was skating quite well. I skated quite well at Liebes's. And if you'd have added up all because they were basically races. That's what they were.
Yeah.
It was trial, you know, race trials. And I don't think I finished out the first four in anything, in absolutely anything. And it came, because I was only picking a team of four, and all the way through I was in the top four. And in one particular distance, I remember I was second to Folly. It was only Johnny Folly that beat me in the one distance. I can't remember where it was, but anyway, it came to the selection announcement, and they named the four skaters, and I think it was Leo, Mickey McGough, Johnny Foley, and Bill Sharman. I think was the team.
Yeah, that's right. It was.
And they named that team, and they went Fry is first reserve. So they'd announced the team, and then whilst it was all together there, Henry Crystal says, who was the team manager, he said, after the World Championships in Vicenza, I've got to say, at that particular time, I thought I should have been in the team.
Yeah, so by the time, so when they come to name the team, you felt, I've done enough to be in the team
Yes.
of Vicenza. I'm in the top four and everything.
Yeah.
Folly's the only one who's beat me in this event. The four that are going to go, one of them's going to be me.
Yeah, that's what I thought at the time. Right, I thought I'd done enough to be in the team. Anyway, they said, so they announced the team for Vicenza, and then Henry Crystal says, following the World Championships, there's a tour of Sicily, I think. I think there was a tour.
Catania.
I think it was Sicily.
They did race. They did race after that. I know it was.
Yeah.
I think it was because I know that Henry kicked off about how bad the organisation was a bit afterwards.
Right. Well, I think they're going through a week in Sicily. So Henry said, "Are you all available for that?" And Leo piped up, and he says that he asked them all individually, and Leo says yes, and for Argentina next year. And that's when I thought, at that particular moment, there's no way you're going to Argentina in place of me. And that's fired me up. That fired me up for the whole of the following year, because Argentina was the following year's World Championships. And I really grafted that year, worked so hard that year, trained hard, everything else. And then a few weeks before that World Championships, I was working on a site in the centre of Birmingham. It was the new ATV studios, and I had an accident with some oxyacetylene equipment, and it blew up in my hands, and I got badly burnt.
That was before Argentina.
Before Argentina the next year. Are you going through the next?
No, that's fine. No, I'm interested. Just I was going to ask you which champs was that. I know you got burnt.
Yeah, and I got burnt just before Argentina, and my hands were bandaged from there to there, and my arms, everything. I'd lost all my hair in the fire, my beard, everything had gone, and the surgeon says, I think we're going to have to skin graft, and then following that, I said to the surgeon, how long will that be? He says, well, there's a period to make sure that there's no rejection of the graft. He said it could be up to 6 weeks. And I thought, no, I can't have that. Argentina's only 2 months away. And I says, is there nothing else you can do? I says, because I've got to keep training. I've got to, I've got World Championships coming up. He said, all this we can do is you attend the hospital every other day. He says, and what we'll do, we'll redress it every day, both hands. He says, and it was absolute agony. You can't believe the agony I went through. They take the dressings off and all the dead skin and everything else would be stuck to it and be ripping it off. And then I used to have to put my hand in like a rod rest, and this nurse would get a pair of tweezers and she'd pull the skin back till we got to the fresh stuff and cut it off and pull it back and cut it off. It was absolute agony. I used to come out of there and I was in absolute agony. And trying to train through it, I've got these bandages on, and obviously as you're training, all the fluid, because that's the problem with burns, it's the fluid you lose. All the fluid would soak these bandages and drip off my fingertips. All your bodily fluids would just drip off. I went through agony that year to make the World Championships. Anyway,
well, yeah.
Long story short, I got there.
Yeah, you got there. Well, I was gonna just around that time. So who was you close to as a teammate back then in '68, '69? Who? So you're in the Midland team. I don't know who was around you, but was it just yourself now, or?
Yeah, basically '69. Johnny Toy was a great ally, always has been. He would train anywhere and everywhere, and we used to train at the factory centre.
In the build up to the trials and for Argentina and whatever, who was at training sessions?
Well, on the road, the road circuits at Kings Norton Factory Centre, there'd be Leon would always be there, but by this time he wasn't fast enough for me. Johnny Toy would be there, and then Leo Eason would be there as well. At the in that year, we all used to train at the factory centre, and the Birmingham club and us used to be training together. But realistically, when it came down to it, there would be just me and Leo left, and we'd do a lap a piece, 500 metre circuit. Every time it was my turn on the front, I would blast through him. I would just blast through him, and then it'd be his turn on the front, and he'd blast through me. And it was a real competitive training session. He didn't want me to be top dog, and there was no way that I wanted him to be top dog. And that was really the fuel that got me into good enough condition to go to Worlds.
And it was late, wasn't it? So the Worlds for Argentina was December. It was December.
Well, I say we were there.
You went early.
We went in the November.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why I know. Because Chloe came out with the team.
That's right.
She didn't skate. And I always know that her birthday is the 30th of
That's
November.
Right, November, yeah.
Because when we was in Argentina, she was 30. She was 30 on the 30th of November. So that has always stuck in my mind. So I know he was there in the November. And like I said, it obviously rolled on into early December.
So how did the trials progress? So in the build-up to Argentina, where were the trials for that?
That was at Cosford, RAF Cosford.
Oh, is that a banked?
They'd got we'd never skated bank track.
Right.
None of us had ever skated bank track. But they may have done in Vicenza, I don't know. They probably would have done.
Yeah, well, Folly, I don't know if when they went, because Madrid, so, yeah, they would have probably
would have done.
They wouldn't have skated. So, Eason would have skated bank track in the Worlds. So he'd have gone to places like Venice and that early on. But other than that, there wouldn't have been anybody else who'd have skated.
I'd never skated bank track.
No.
And Bobby Alford managed to get, because he was ex-RAF anyway, he managed to get in at RAF Cosford, where the British Athletics had got a wooden athletics 200 metre banked athletics track, just bare wood, no no tartan on it or mundo or whatever, because back in them days it was just wood, and they used to run on short spikes on it, and we trained on that,
So was Leo at Cosford?
You know, I can't remember.
So did they announce the team at Cosford then for Argentina?
Yeah, I can't remember. I can't remember the announcements, but what I can remember is that we used to have it on a Sunday, and we used to have the track on a Sunday, and Bob Alford, who is now the team manager, he would go through the whole World Championship programme in one day. So you'd do a 500 metre time trial, you'd do a 1,000 metre knockout, you'd do a 5k, you'd do a 10k, you'd do a 20k, and you'd do a relay. I used to drive home from that session absolutely knackered. But it was, but that's what they needed to see you do in order to select the team. But I can't remember the team announcements.
Okay.
I can't remember them saying, these are the arrangements, this is what this is the team, these are the arrangements. I can't remember any of that.
So when you do go to Argentina, you're fourth in the time trial.
Mm-hmm.
Did you consider that a good result? Can you remember that, or how you felt, or did you think of?
No, I can't. I just again, it was almost like, I can't say I expected. I didn't go there expecting to win. Put it that way. There wasn't a feeling of elation. There wasn't a feeling of disappointments. It was just, that's where I was.
Okay.
I mean, when the most exciting race of all, and the one that really fired me up, was to see Cancerella and Jerry Glover, the New Zealander, in the 1,000 metre knockouts. I mean, Cancerella was just so exciting to watch.
Was that your first time you'd come across him?
Yeah, first time.
You weren't in Follonica?
Not that I remember.
Okay.
Not that I remember. I can't remember. The only one I can picture in Florica is Ruggieri, because he was, easily identifiable. Little fellow in glasses.
Yeah.
Nobody else skated in glasses.
Yeah.
And.
But Cantarella in Argentina then, so he was.
He was something else. He was. I mean, I don't particularly remember the time trial.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the time trial.
What about Folly's win?
Oh, I remember that very clearly.
And because Sharman had also got a medal.
Yeah, Sharman, yeah.
They'd medalled. But what was mood like in the camp then?
It was good. It was. You gotta remember, I was fairly young, and it was South America, and it was Argentina, and it was, we'd.
Yeah, you were only 20.
Yeah, and we'd flown on a 707, big 707. It was all just a.
But was Folly's victory, because it was your first Worlds, how was Folly's victory, when you consider that he was the last world champion that we had?
Yeah.
But like at that time we'd had Leo and Danny winning 63, and so it's only 6 years on from their victory. But like, was it like a, not expected, but was it a big celebration, or was it just, well done, let's move on?
It was. John was absolutely elated.
Yeah.
John was, he couldn't have been happier. He was just, he was like a kid, really. He's just all bean. He was like really, really excited, and we were all excited for him because, Johnny Foley's a lovely guy, and I got on really well with him, and I was really, really pleased for him. But it didn't seem like a big deal, if you know what I mean. Obviously it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And as the years progressed,
it's more important now almost.
I can see it. But don't forget, John's about 9-10 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
He must have been close to 30. When he won his Worlds. In actual fact, I think he was 29, same age as Danny, which is ironic, really, that you think that our world champions have come from that age group, where nowadays everybody's looking at your early 20s to be world champions, but John had matured into a really good skater, and I'd got a lot of time for John. But like I said, he was over the moon, and we were over the moon for him. But it was almost like, well, yeah, you've won. It's it's just basically another race. You've won. But me getting, because I had a good place in the 20 as well. I think I placed well in the 20. I think I was 5th or 6th in the 20. I can't remember exactly, but like I says, I don't think I skated the 1,000. I don't think I skated the 1,000 knockouts. But watching Cantarella and Jerry Glover, two massively fast guys, and Jerry Glover, I mean, Cantarella, had got muscles, muscles on his spit, and Glover was the same. Glover was even more muscular. His legs were massive. But that final was a brilliant final.
So you move on from Argentina. You come up from Argentina, and then there's no Worlds or Euros in 1970. But you did go to Insel in 70.
We went to
the
Insel.
First time. You, Mick, Johnny Foley, and Bill Sharman.
Yeah.
And I think Sharman retired after that event. He said, I seem to recall him writing on a postcard, Bill Sharman, R.I.P.
Yeah, if I go back to, I nicknamed Bill Silver Bill because he only ever won silver medals. And in Argentina, they, just going back to the Worlds, they had a 2-man relay at the end of the championships.
Yeah.
And I remember Bill saying to us, "You're going to let us win."
Yeah, because I think it was you and Mick in one team, and it was John and Bill in the other.
And John and Bill in the other. And I remember Bill saying, "You're going to let us win. You're going to let us win." He was desperate for a gold medal, and I don't know if we let them win, but they did win.
They win, yeah.
And we was on the rostrum. I don't know if it was 2nd or 3rd.
Yeah, he was on the rostrum, yeah, and I think Marotta and Ruggieri might be on that. But in the
it
other.
was, but I like Bill, and like we raced in Belgium one year as well, on the road. I think it was St Leonard's, and he says to me there, "You can let me win the sprint." You can let me win.
Good old Bill.
Yeah.
So 1970 then, you went to Insel.
Yeah.
And can you remember that trip at all?
Yeah, I remember it well. Yeah, it was a good trip. It was again that was one of the few times I see Bobby Alford lose his rag and threatened to put one on the waiter in this bar where he was drinking. We was after the racing. We went for a meal and a drink, and they'd got some music on, or some singer or something, I can't remember what. And they came with the bill at the end of the night. They wouldn't let you pay as you ordered your round. It was table service. They wouldn't let you pay. And then they came with the bill at the end of the day, and Bob looked at the bill and then ripped his hair out basically with the. He was mad. He went mad at this waiter. And apparently, if you ordered your drinks when the music was playing, it was extra. That was the excuse for the higher bill. But like I said, Bob really lost it that night. Really lost it. But other than that, the Italians were there with a strong team. I don't know. Did I beat Cancer that time?
I think that was 72. I think.
Was it? I know I beat Cancer in Insel. Yeah.
Well, you talk about beating Cancer. So moving on a year, 71 is the Europeans in Wetron. Again, no World Championships, and there wouldn't be now until 75. Yeah, but 71 Europeans in Wetron, and you win the time trial.
Yeah.
How? Oh, and what do you remember of that? I mean, so European champion, so you're 22, and the European champion, you were talking about just about the age group in them days, sort of late 20s when you were sort of doing it, but and again, time trial, and you got somebody like Cantarella, who is now even now he's almost a legend. He's been around for 6 or 7 years.
Yeah.
You beat him in a time trial in Wetron. What's the story behind that?
It was strange. It was strange. What happened? It had rained during the day, and the racing was, they tried to get the race on because again, time restrictions and trying to get everything in one weekend because the Euros were just over a weekend.
That's right, 2 days, yeah.
And they was trying to get it on, and we'd been hanging around all day, and the time trial went off really late at night, which everybody was flagging. But what you got to remember is that I was training at Mecca at 10:30 at night, so that was my normal training time. So it didn't bother me, that was the time I trained. Everybody else was ready to go home, back to the hotel, go to bed. But like I said, it suited me. It didn't even bother me. But we had talking about the Mecca and them using urethane wheels. That's what we used on the road in Wettrum. We used the Mecca wheels, the Mecca rink wheels. They were really good on the road, and we'd been using them for training at Kings Norton Factory Centre, so we knew they worked on the road, and that's what we took to Wettrum. But it's really strange. You talk about confidence and whether you thought you was going to win and all the rest of it. We were stopping in some university students' accommodation in Ghent, in the halls of residence, and all our rooms were individual rooms. There was just a single bed, a wardrobe, and a little desk for each student. And at that time, I smoked. I used to smoke, and I'd run out of cigarettes, and I knew Mick McGough smoked. Johnny Foley and Bill didn't. And I went down to see Mick, and I knew he weren't smoking cigarettes. He used to use these little miniature cigar things. And I said, Mick, can I have one of them cigars? I'm gasping for a fag. So he gave me one of these miniature cigars, and I went back to my room and I lit it up. And I'm sitting up in bed. There's a little fluorescent tube above my head, and I'm just sitting there in bed. I'm smoking this bloody cigar, and it's taking me about 15 minutes to smoke it, not like a cigarette like on. And I'm smoking it, and I'm thinking about the race the next day. And I had this feeling, and I've never had it since. I knew that night I was going to win the next day. Never had it since, and I've smoked no end of cigars trying to get that same feeling back. Trying to get that same feeling back. I've gone through packets and packets of miniature cigars trying to, on race days, trying to get that feeling back. Never had it before.
So you put your victory down to Goffy then?
Yeah, Goffy's what's it, little mannequin cigar. But it was a case of it weren't an outward confidence. It was just a feeling I had inside that I was going to win the next day. And I went to sleep. I slept like a baby that night. No nerves, no nothing. Not that I ever suffered with nerves anyway. But no anxiety about the event, and that's it. Just went on, did my time, and came back first.
And was it a euphoric moment, or
no?
It was just another day at the office type thing, was it?
Not. It was the same sort of feeling as coming fourth in Argentina. Just the same sort of feeling as
winning the Davis Cup on the embassy.
Yeah, it was almost like, this is what you do. This is what you have. This is what you expect of yourself.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So
there was no sort of recognition or inner recognition that you'd beaten Cantarella or in a sprint. It was nothing.
No. I always wanted to beat him.
Yeah.
From when I seen him in Argentina, I thought, and the esteem in which everybody held him in, and what a fabulous athlete, and he was the Muhammad Ali of skating. He was the star, and I always wanted to beat him. It became a bit of an obsession over the years, but
we'll come to that.
Yeah, I always wanted to beat him, but it weren't all singing, all dancing feeling when I did beat him.
So you beat him. I'm going to start with Tay Bailey because I need to change